Isekai.
The Rebirth of the Malicious Empress of Military Lineage. Chapter 78, Bustling with Activity. He cannot marry. Even before suggesting it, Zhao Yang looked towards the direction of Xi Jingxing's site, and saw that in the bushes of flowers Shan Miao's personal maid had instructed the young eunuch with some stuff. The young eunuch agreed, and most likely it was the first time for him to receive such a large amount. Thus he looked very happy and respectfully said some stuff to the maid before leaving. When the young eunuch left, Jing stood at the original spot and there appeared a trace of doubt in her expression. Shan Miao specifically instructed her to pass the things to that particular young eunuch, but this young eunuch was obviously new to the palace and had no dealings with Shan Miao. So why the need for specific selection? Unable to think the reason behind this, Jing shook her head. Since the goal has been reached, she turned around and left. This young lady from Shen family has a really huge courage, Zhao Yang commented, even dare to take action in the palace, and it seems that Shinzin is not aware of it. Xi Jingxing declined to comment. A person who dared to burn down their own ancestral hall in a fire would not be considered as timid to him. As for what kind of place to take what kind of action, in Shan Miao's eyes, most likely there was no difference at all. Come on. A weird smile appeared on his lips. We should also go and watch the show. I will not go. Zhao Yang winked. Now one must prioritize carefulness in one's action. Not to mention, there are changes in the plan, thus one must be more cautious. As you like, Xi Jingxing said lazily. Suddenly he thought of something and said casually, if there is time, go to the Imperial Physician Court and inquire if there is anything going on from those old folks. Order accepted. Zhao Yang cupped his hands in obeisance and slowly walked towards the other direction. The time passed like a stroll and it was time for the returning banquet to begin. The female guests sat at the lower section of the Great Hall, and the left side that was nearest to the highest seats, at the middle, belonged to the princes. Prince Zhu, Prince Jing and Prince Ting had arrived first. Afterwards Prince Li, Prince Xiang and Prince Chen entered. Prince Zhu and Prince Jing were brothers, so naturally they were a faction, whereas Prince Xiang and Prince Chen were led by Prince Li and they were another faction. As for His Highness the Crown Prince, who has yet to arrive, he had the support of Prince Zhuan's and Prince Chu's support. As for the 9th Prince, His Highness Prince Ting, Fu Ziyu, he did not help any faction and looked to have the weakest power and also the most neutral faction. With the emergence of the 3 princes, the hustle and bustle in the hall gradually quietened down. Emperor Wenhua was also eccentric. He had 9 sons and every one of them were extremely outstanding. If it was an ordinary household, one would burst out of joy with so many outstanding sons, but in the nobilities, the more outstanding the sons were, the more intense the competition was. The most unfortunate thing was that these 9 outstanding sons were born in the most truthless imperial family. This meant that their outstanding qualities would become the nails in one another's eyes, and one would not be content with nothing short of the other's destruction. Now that all the 9 sons were grown up, even though the position of the crown prince had been established, but all of the other forces did not curb. Emperor Wenhua was still present and could maintain the balance in it, but there would be a day that this enormous dragon will get old, and at that time, one was afraid that it would be another reign of terror because of the imperial family of Mingqi that had already begun to stir. Between the Prince Zhou's faction, Prince Li's faction and Crown Prince's faction, the Crown Prince's faction looked as though its power were the greatest. But the Crown Prince's health was weak and Emperor Wenhua would not allow a weak son to sit on the throne. So the Crown Prince's ability to influence was actually following along and could not be considered as in vain. If his health suffered, then it would only benefit Prince Zhuan and Prince Chu. In Prince Li faction, because there were more people, there was also a larger ability to influence. In the hundreds of officials, there were many who were secretly under his wing. Even though the brothers, Prince Zhou and Prince Jing, were not as legitimate as the Crown Prince and their influence was not as great as Prince Li, but they had a mother that had much of the emperor's favor. Consort Zhu Qian and the Zhu family was considered a strong support, and Prince Ting was the remaining one which was not taken into consideration. With regards to influences, it was like a joke to fight alone. With regards to background, his birth mother Consort Dongshu was very low-key, and if she had not give birth to Fu Ziyuyi, she would not be sitting in the position of the 4 consorts. Even though Fu Ziyuyi was outstanding and modest, there was a limit to a person's strength, thus people did not think highly of him. Although Fu Ziyuyi performed that he was not interested in the fight of the heir position, in this deep dark palace, it was necessary to have a defensive heart, so his brothers were still keeping an eye on him. But the women folk did not see others as profoundly as men. The young females that were present were secretly checking out Fu Ziyuyi's handsome face and whispered with blushing faces. In all fairness, the Fu family members all have good looks, and Fu Ziyuyi was the most outstanding in this regard among the 9 princes. The imperial family gave him an extraordinary air, and he always had an indifferent attitude but did not have an aloof air, nor did he raise his chin up to heavens. For the young females, this kind of cordial and exceptional male was covered with elegance. His Highness Prince Ting is indeed too handsome. A young female's muttering was heard. Shen Miao turned over, and one did not know when did Feng Anning came over to her side and laughed before putting on a serious face. Since you have already arrived, why did you not come over to look for me and put up the air of a high and mighty lady, so as to make me look for you? Shen Miao was unable to fathom her words. Shen Miao had some frustration as to why and when did this high and mighty young lady, Feng Anning, begun to stick to her like a milk sweet. She did not even know when did Feng Anning turned around her attitude towards her. Shen Miao was after all not a true budding young beauty, and she was unable to be intimate with Feng Anning like peers could be. Even so, she was unprepared to accept others' goodwill, so she did not know how to deal with Feng Anning. Finally she shook her head and found an excuse. I did not see you. Shen Miao naturally did not know that if it was the former her, Feng Anning would definitely not take an additional look, but the current Shen Miao was the empress who was bathed in the bloody rain and wind in the inner palace of Mingqi, and people would have a kind of feeling to worship and follow others that were stronger than oneself. Feng Anning could faintly sense that Shen Miao had a strong heart and naturally unconsciously followed her. Qi. Feng Anning's lips curled and suddenly whispered in a teasing manner, anyways, His Highness Prince Ting has arrived, and in any case he was a person you are happy with, why are you not even looking at all? As if to verify her words, Feng Anning just finished her words. One could hear Zhang Zhejuan laughing loudly. 5th Shen young lady, His Highness Prince Ting has arrived. She did it to make a fool of Shen Miao, and also knew that under everyone's eyes and in front of the imperial family, Shen Miao would not dare to get angry, and even Luo Zuyan would have to endure. This kind of words can be used as a joke, since the past Shen Miao was in love with Prince Ting, and it was something that the entire court of Mingqi knew. Once her words were spoken, not only the female guests, even the male side of the banquet also looked over. Luo Zuyan gritted her teeth. She knew that this person deliberately angered Shen Miao. Although Shen Miao said that she was no longer in love with Prince Ting, Luo Zuyan knew that it was not easy to just renounce the like one felt for a person just like that. Shen Miao looked as if nothing has happened, but who would know if your heart was painful? Luo Zuyan was angry that Shen Xin was not present at the moment. She turned to look at Shen Miao and was worried that Shen Miao would be hurt and saddened by it, and softly said, Zhao Zhao. In the male side of the banquet, everyone's eyes showed excitement. Kailin's lips were pulled up, seemingly to rejoice in others' misfortune. That day during the academy examinations, Shen Miao made him lose face, and now Shen Miao herself would also repeat his mistakes, so the mere thought of it made him feel happy. Su Mingfeng and Su Minglang sat side by side as Su Minglang pulled Su Mingfeng's sleeve and said in a pleasantly surprised tone, eldest brother, Shen family's older sister has also arrived? His head was too small and the table had blocked his entire line of sight, thus it was not possible for him to see Shen Miao. Su Mingfeng shook his head. He did not know when and how this younger brother of his had good feelings for the fifth young lady of the Shen family. If it was not because of Su Minglang's young age, Su Mingfeng would have thought that this younger brother of his has some other inclinations for Shen Miao. But he also turned his head to look at Shen Miao. How would Shen Miao face Prince Ting with this kind of close encounter? At the corner of the male side of the banquet, there was a light-colored robed man. As compared to the other richly clothed nobilities, he was dressed very simply, but this did not make him feel awkward. On the contrary, because he was dressed simple, there was a kind of romantic, natural and unrestrained air of a distinguished literary person. At this moment, he was quietly watching that unspeaking purple-clad young female, and there was some waves of emotion in his eyes. This man was Pei Lang. It went without saying that Pei Lang was not eligible to participate in such events like this, but the official supervisor of Guangwentang had a death in the family, so he let Pei Lang to attend by representing the school. Even though Pei Lan was a teacher in Guangwentang, in actuality he was considered as half a supervisor, so there was no decline. Who knew that after coming in, one would see such a scene? Prince Zhu and Prince Jing stood beside Fu Ziyuyi and they heard Zhang Zhejuan's deliberated provoking words. Prince Zhu laughed and pat Fu Ziyuyi's shoulder and said with a profound meaning, "Your ninth younger brother is really extraordinary." Fu Ziyuyi's brows slightly wrinkled, but there was a light smile on his face. Fourth elder brother is joking. Having said that, his eye unconsciously drift over to the seat of that young female. Ah! A light chuckle escaped from the young female's lips and the surrounding area quietened down. One was unable to hear any emotion from this laugh. If one were to say it was a ridiculing laugh, it was too soft for it. If one were to say it was a happy laugh, it was too calm for it. It was as if a wine that had settled for too long and had thousands of complex taste, and stirred up so many feelings in one's heart that at the end there was only a floating and plain laugh out of it. It was still alright for the male guests, but the female guests were surprised. They had been immersed in the circles for so many years, but they could not even hear the meaning behind Shen Miao's laughter. How old was she? Shen Miao lifted her head and there was no pause in her eyes, just like that day in the academy examinations when she shot the arrow at Kailin. And that look was shot towards the figure who was holding his hands, Fu Ziyuyi. Fu Ziyuyi was slightly stunned. The eyes of that young female were not filled with obsession, love or pleasant surprise, but with a deep bottomless calm, as if looking at him was the reincarnation of a century-year-old elderly who had gone through so much experience. There was no sadness nor happiness, but made one felt uneasy. That pair of clear eyes had a very nice shape. If it was slightly bent, it will look so sweet that it would make one reminiscent the taste of honey sweets. But she just quietly looked on. In Fu Ziyuyi's heart, there was a sudden uneasiness, like one was walking in the jungle alone and in the depths of the grass there was a beast who was targeting one. That sense of uneasiness became more and more intense, that the smile on his face was unknowingly put away as he watched Shen Miao determinedly. Ah! Shen Miao lightly laughed again. This time everyone could see clearly that her ruddy lips slightly bent, but her eyes did not move, making it clearly a sneer. Most probably it was due to the person that one loved that did not return the feelings, and the hatred fed on love, so the sneer was born from the grievances and dissatisfaction. Everyone thought of it like this, but were also surprised that Shen Miao actually dared to give such a straightforward expression to show her dissatisfaction. Who had the courage to sneer at the princes in the palace? Fu Ziyuyi did not move. In that sneer, he clearly saw a faint layer of killing intention, even though it was deliberately disguised. But one could not cover the breathing of such feelings. That kind of appearance was definitely cold and made his heart shrink. Just because he could not accept the other's intention of a killing intention against him, Fu Ziyuyi became somewhat stunned. But the thing that shocked him was that he actually felt that the killing intention was filled with menace. Could this be his misconception? When he looked with rapt attention at Shen Miao, The latter had already turned her head over and was speaking to Feng and Ning. In Shen Miao's eyes, there was a flash of killing intention. For so long, even if it was during the academy examinations, she only saw Fu Ziyu from afar, and she did not want to be this close with Fu Ziyu because she was afraid that once she was close to Fu Ziyu, she would not be able to conceal her monstrous hatred. Zhang Zhejuan's provocative words were replied by Shen Miao's two inexplicable light laughters. Her first one was a complex light laugh and the second one was a light and cold laugh. But even fools could see clearly and obviously that there were no feelings of love for Fu Ziyu. Even after laughing twice, she simply talked to the young lady beside her. That contempt and disregard made others unable to guess if it was on purpose or unintentional. It was just that the atmosphere was much colder because of her. There was a flash of light in Prince Zhou's eyes as he smiled and leaned towards Fu Ziyu. Ninth younger brother. It can be seen that you are not invincible after all. Fu Ziyu laughed wearily, but his heart was gradually paying heavy attention to Shen Miao. Oh, it seems that the fifth young lady of the Shen family had some imposing attitude. Su Mingfeng said with interest. Now that he was more or less recovered from his serious illness, he was still unable to work, so his official position was still not reinstated. Older sister Shen was originally very good. Su Minglang rolled his eyes at him. Pei Lang, who was at his seat, lowered his head for a sip of tea, but his eyes were pondering. Just as there was some silence, one could hear a hearty bright laughter. Ha ha, everyone, I have arrived late. That little mountain-like figure was no one else but Shenzhen. Following closely behind Shenzhen was Shen Kaiyu. Seeing that the main person was here, the various official came over to greet him. Shenzhen greeted Prince Zhu and the rest before sitting down at the banquet. He and Shen Kaiyu missed the good show just now, else even if Shenzhen do not take action, Shen Kaiyu would not have any protective feelings for the fairer gender, and Zhang Zhejuan would definitely take the consequences. After Shenzhen, Prince Li and entourage and the Crown Prince and entourage also arrived. The Crown Prince's health was weak, but the Crown Prince's consort was magnanimous and dignified. Shen Miao glanced at the Crown Prince's consort and her eyes moved. This Crown Prince's consort had the backing of her maiden Prime Minister family's backing, and the Crown Prince borrowed that backing to have a strong hold of power. Later the Crown Prince's consort became pregnant. Emperor Wenhua worried about the poor health of the Crown Prince and that the family of the Crown Prince's consort would take advantage and seize the power, so he actually instructed some actions to be taken so that the Crown Prince's consort will lose the fetus. The Crown Prince's consort was deeply in love with the Crown Prince and did not know that her husband could bear the pain and kill his own blood. She was also scared that by telling this to her maiden family, because it would be a disaster for them, and afterwards she succumbed to grief. After the Crown Prince's consort was dead for 3 years, the Prime Minister's residents knew of the truth and wanted to seek revenge for their daughter and finally joined forces with Fu Ziyu. Shen Miao looked at the cup in front of her. Each one of the Fu family were ruthless, fickle-hearted and ungrateful. There was not much difference between her and the Crown Prince's consort. Both of them were sacrifices for the schemes to gain the country, an innocent discarded chess piece. Now she wants to be the person who play the chess. Whoever wanted to play with her must be prepared to sacrifice. After the Crown Prince's consort was seated, the good friends she had from before she was married came over to chat with her. Over at the male side, Prince Yu had also arrived. When Prince Yu arrived, some of the people at the female side were silent, especially those young females who were scared till their face turned pale. In the previous returning banquets, Prince Yu would not participate. For so many years, he did not take into consideration the events that happened in court, and that was also why the paranoid Emperor Wenhua would be extraordinarily tolerant of this younger brother. And it also includes the meritorious service of protecting his life when Prince Yu was younger. But if Prince Yu did not meddle with the affairs of the court, no matter how big the life-saving event was, it would not surpass Emperor Wenhua's suspicious heart. After all the brothers of Emperor Wenhua died under his hands. The sudden appearance of the always absent Prince Yu in the returning banquet made the female guests to feel disturbed. The male guests felt puzzled, but some of the princes were smiling as they were well aware of it. The women that were close to the crown prince's consort said, "For what reason did His Highness Prince Yu of the first rank appear here?" There was some probing intention in the words. Naturally, the crown prince's consort was aware of the reasons behind, and her lips raised as she smiled. "Royal Shu has been widowed for so many years. It is time to find someone to wait upon his life." When the words were spoken, the female guests were indefinitely surprised. Could it be that Prince Yu would be choosing a Wangf? But it was not a good thing to become Prince Yu's consort. At this moment the young females could not help but shrink their bodies, daring to ask Crown Prince's consort. A Furin asked with a smile, which young lady would have such a blessing, but the Crown Prince's consort was unwilling to speak and only shook her head and laughed. One will know later. Because of the Crown Prince's consort's words, the female guests were in an impasse and everyone were somewhat afraid. That position of Prince Yu's consort was like a seal to press one to death. It was to make one die faster. How was it considered a good thing? Feng and Ning leaned nearer to Shen Miao and asked, "Who do you guess is going to be Prince Yu's Wangf?" Shen Miao said, "I cannot guess. You are really not interesting." Feng and Ning's mouth twitched. At the other side, Shen Qing was tightly clutching the end of her dress. From the moment she saw Prince Yu, her mind was overwhelmed by memories of the thousands of tortures that he gave to her. If it was not Ren Wanyun who was tightly holding her, Shen Qing would have screamed out. "King must not be afraid." Ren Wanyun spoke by Shen Qing's ear, using a voice that only the both of them were able to hear her words. "Today Prince Yu is here to settle that female for you. Wait till she enter Prince Yu residence. Naturally there would be means for her to neither live nor die." On the other side, Chen Rikayu saw the movements at Ren Wanyun and Shen Qing's side, and drank a mouthful of tea as she slightly smiled. After Prince Yu's arrival, one thought that other than the Emperor and Empress, everyone had already arrived, but suddenly there was a burst of surprise. Feng and Ning was pulling Shen Miao to talk but looked over at the sound. One only saw a person walking over from outside the hall. Purple gold robe, black silk boots with brows that were unspeakably handsome, and an unhurried walking pace that was lazily walking in. The Marquis of Linen was the first to call out in surprise, "Jing Xing." Following which he thought of something and frowned before watching his figure without saying anything. Everyone was surprised. What kind of influence did this returning banquet had that even Prince Yu, who did not participate in palace banquets, came, and now even the little Marquis of the Z family, Zi Jingxing, also arrived, and the female guests had an obsessed and excited look that was no less than during Fu Ziyuyi's appearance, and in fact could even surpass it. The youth's figure was well ironed, and even though his steps were taken leisurely, each step has its own force. He already had an extremely good appearance. With the purple gold long robe, there was a faint feeling of the need to watch him intently. Face was like snow, eyes were like lacquer, brows were like swords, and that slightly hooked lips were like the red blossoms that bloom in the snow and had a brilliant peach color to it. These brows that were more delicate than a female's, but there was no trace of femininity. Instead, like the sun in the sky, his eyes were burning bright. He walked over along, and all the civil and military officials became the contrast, as if the real dragon and imperial family of Mingqi and the Golden Imperial Palace all encompasses in him as the nobility and arrogance that oozes out of him. Indeed, too handsome that the world paled in comparison, and this youth who had burning eyes like the sun, had also sharp eyes. That cynical smile when one look was also full of indifference and cruelty. This little Z Marquis, since when was he this remarkable? Feng and Ning murmured. Although Zi Jingxing also acted ostentatiously, as compared to today, he was overshadowed. It was as if the past visage of him was deliberately done to cover up the light, and now that the layers of covers had faded, the real him, his elegance was incomparable to Fu Ziyuyi. It was as if he was supposed to stand at the peak of the dynasty overlooking all living beings. Once this idea came to mind, Shen Miao was shocked by it. She looked up towards Zi Jingxing. That purple-clad youth walked up in front, faced everyone's surprised eyes and raised an eyebrow and smiled. I am also here to join in the bustling activities. After speaking, he walked to the middle of the banquet to sit, but not next to Marquis of Linen, Ziding, but the next to Su Mingfeng. Su Minglang pursed his lips and reluctantly moved a little. Seeing that Ziding's expression immediately sank when the surrounding people saw it, even though there was discussions, there was no obstruction. Zi Jingxing had always been a frivolous character, and one feared that today was only a moment of interest for him. The Zi family has brought out such an outstanding character. Luo Zuyan had a serious expression on. She always had been accurate on seeing if one was a dragon or worm. This Zi Jingxing's actions had a kind of magnanimity to them, and there was no reason for one to feel a little dangerous. Those who had been on the battlefield were more sensitive to danger. When Shen Qiu saw Zi Jingxing, his eyes lit up and he almost stood up, but he immediately scratched his head and covered it up by picking up the tea in front to drink. Such a rude behavior like that made the surrounding people look at him weirdly, as Shen Qiu quickly laughed awkwardly. This guy from the Zi family is indeed not bad. Shenzhen was very satisfied. Towards Zi Jingxing, who was able to stifle his old rival, he practically could not use words to appreciate. If the other person was not from the Zi family, maybe he would be friends with the other person. The Fu family prince's eyes, however, reflected some dolefulness. This little marquis of the residence of the Marquis of Linen looked overly outstanding. Even though he did not enter the court, but he had the lawless attitude, and one could sense that he was not someone who would work under others. If one was unable to subdue this kind of person, it was best to kill them off early. Seeing the growth of the Marquis residence that held military power due to have such a capable person, was not what the imperial family was willing to consent. Just at this moment, one could hear an eunuch voice shouts lengthened, "The Emperor has arrived, the Empress has arrived." The Emperor and Empress were long overdue by the awaiting crowd. Emperor Wenhui looked like he was in a good mood, but the Empress was rather fierce. As a woman, her looks were considered beautiful, and one could see the gracefulness when she was younger. But with age, her cheeks hollowed and she looked somewhat fierce. Because the crown prince was sick, this Empress's methods had to always been extremely severe. Previously Shen Miao stood by Fu Ziyuyi's side, and after marrying him, she was often put into difficult situation by this Empress, and suffered numerous times under this Empress's hands. It was because of this Empress that set the example, that Shen Miao learned to see clearly what were the means to live in the palace. All the different things in the past were all unfounded now. She was here for revenge, but the main goal in mind was to completely overthrow the entire imperial family. A mayfly trying to shake a tree, trying to put out a burning cart with a cup of water. They were like the distance between her and the Empress now. But this Empress position belonged to her, and there would be a day where she would sit back on that position. Shen Miao's pupils hang down as she gently picked up the tea in front of her to drink a mouthful. Not far away from her, Shen King also revealed a trace of a smile as if to celebrate with her, and she raised the tea up at the same time and took a sip. That smile seemed to be more carefree. Shen Miao's black eyes got even stronger as the end of her lips suddenly bent. It was different from a sneer. This smile with her brows also bent looked sweet and was actually very moving. Even the male side of the banquet who noticed it was shaken emotionally. Pei Lang kept staring at Shen Miao, but he did not know why did he do that for. It was as if this young female had something that attracted him. It was only a few months ago where Shen Miao was just going when Tang's only idiot. Pei Lan treated her warmly, but it was only as the etiquette dictated, as he looked down on her in his heart. The Emperor and Empress sat down and the banquet began. This so-called monarch and official celebration was in fact only an act. A monarch was still a monarch, an official was still an official. Everyone was making jokes that was of no great matter, as if the Heavenly One was celebrating joy with the common people. Su Mingfeng bumped Zi Jingxing. "Why did you come?" "To watch the bustle." Zi Jingxing's lips hooked up and there was a collective sound of air being drawn out at where the female guests were seated. "This is senseless. What bustle is there to see?" Su Mingfeng's head ached. As one was speaking, one could see Prince Yu of the first rank opening his mouth to speak. "Imperial elder brother, His voice was neither high nor low, but the hall immediately quietened down. Obviously everyone was extremely afraid of this demon. A few days back, with regards to the promise for choosing a consort for this younger brother had thought of the matter clearly. Prince Yu's smile was queer. Since there is a happy event today, why not have a double happiness? This younger brother is interested in Shan family's young lady. He spoke very slowly and his eyes were like a poisonous snake that was winding around, like maggots gnawing on bones, tightly climbed to the front of the purple-clad young female.